Today we're going to talk about leadership. Leadership and the qualities of being a leader are extremely important because all good managers must be leaders. You need to be able to lead the people that you supervise. You need to be able to lead the organization, lead your department, lead your team. So leadership is very important. Okay, so it's basically the ability to influence people towards the attainment of goals, to get them to follow you in the direction that you want to go. So contemporary leadership, leaders have evolved as the needs of society and organizations have changed. It used to be the guy who was out in front of everyone with his sword in the hand, charging the other enemy. He was the leader, the one who took the first step. But with technology, economics, labor, social, and cultural changes, there are now different types of leadership. And particularly in this era of turbulent and uncertainty in environments, leadership has to be different from what it was in the past. So the author offers you 4 approaches to today's turbulent times. One he calls level 5 leadership, lack of humility, fierce resolve, credit other people. And he says that you need to be capable, you need to be contributing, you need to be competent, personally effective, and then you reach that level 5 where you can build excellence through your leadership. So servant leader, work exists for development of the worker. Servant leaders transcend self-interest and try to focus on assisting and developing their employees. Authentic leader, know and understand themselves, espouse high ethical values, inspire trust and commitment, and respect viewpoints. Encourage collaboration, help others grow. Competent components of authentic leadership. To have passion, good values, connect with others, self-discipline. Gender differences associated with level 5 leaders. Interactive leadership means that leaders favor a consensual and collaborating process. So women are often seen as being more consensual and more collaborative than males are. So here are some of the ratings and some of the research in terms of what women do better than men. So good management is essential to organizations. Excuse me, sorry. And good managers must be leaders. And managers must promote stability. Now, leadership is extremely important. Organizations spend billions of dollars every year to train leaders. Now, which type of organization spends the most money in the world on leadership training? The military. The military absolutely must have leaders in order to function. They probably spend the most money of any organization in the world in terms of training people to be leaders. So, leadership motivates towards vision and change. Right? There has to be a little bit of a balance of both. You have to manage, but you also have to lead. Manager qualities: rational, stability, assignment, organize, use the power of your position. But a leader has to be visionary, promote change, define the purpose, nurture others, be willing to innovate, and use your personal power to influence people. Leadership traits. Early research on leadership focused on traits: honesty, intelligence, self-confidence, and how you looked, your appearance. All right. So at one point in time, there was tremendous arguments as to whether leaders are born or whether leaders can be trained. And for a long time, we had this idea that leaders are born. You're either born a leader or you're not a leader. And so we had the idea that the great men, the Winston Churchills, the Franklin Delano Roosevelts, were symbols of leadership. So, but effective leaders possess varied traits and strengths. Natural abilities, knowledge, skills are essential. And other personal characteristics. People look to see that leaders have energy, intelligence, self-confidence. They're sociable. They are able to accomplish their tasks and have a reasonable background in terms of education. So, beyond the leadership trait concepts, the researchers came up with 2 leadership behaviors, whether you're task-oriented or whether you're people-oriented. And many of these studies looked at this to identify whether people are effective as focusing on tasks or whether they're effective focusing on people. So, so if you're considered people-oriented, you're going to be mindful of subordinates, respect ideas, establish trust. If you're task, you're going to focus on the task and direct activities towards goals. The Michigan studies, famous studies, compare the behavior of effective and ineffective supervisors. Employee-centered leaders tended to be more effective than just job-centered leaders. This is the leadership grid. You can take this self-analysis and it'll give you coordinates as to where you fall on this grid. Okay? It's always interesting to do this to see in which area that you personally fall. And you can do this privately just for your own self-interest. Contingency approaches, situational model of leadership. We saw that in the nuns in New Orleans, that they were able to take over in the situation. Situational theory of leadership, a lot of behavior studies, degree of willingness, ability of subordinate to demonstrate when performing a task. Here the author shows how a leader should support and allow responsibility, particularly when leading or delegating people with different styles. Contingency theory. Task-oriented, relation-oriented. Right? Interesting chart. Substitutes for leaders. There may be some situations in which the style is unimportant because the particular response to that situation has been established and everyone knows how to act. So you can see that depending on the task, the variables in the organization and the groups, leadership styles vary. Charismatic and transformational leaders. So charismatic leaders have vision, have an ideal future, inspire and motivate people to do more, lofty vision, etc. Charismatic leaders such as John F. Kennedy got the whole nation to share his vision. All right? Transactional, clarify tasks, initiate structure, provide awards, hardworking, etc. Right? Transformational, innovate, recognize, inspire. So in this category, Steve Jobs would be a transformational leader. Top qualities in leaders. Top qualities in followers. See, it's also interesting, in most organizations, you can be a leader in one situation, and in other situations, you need to be a follower. So you need to be both a good leader and a good follower. Styles of leadership. Power and influence. Well, before we leave the transactional and transformational leaders, the interesting thing about leadership is it can be good or it can be bad. So if you think about people who really got other people to follow them, Adolf Hitler was a fantastic leader, unbelievable. Mussolini, Genghis Khan, Stalin. These were people who had leadership skills, but didn't use them for positive thinking. Dalai Lama, Reverend Martin Luther King, transformational leaders that had great personal interest, right? And they had what we would call soft power, some of them. They were experts or had referred power because of their positions, and often they didn't have hard power. So hard power, legitimate power, you're appointed director of your division. Reward power, you have the ability to promote, provide better salary, provide better working environment. You can give a reward. Coercive power, you have the power to fire somebody, to give them a bad review. So all of this power rests in leadership. Other sources of power that are important, your personal performance, network of your relationships, and how much information you have in your aware of. 6 interpersonal influence tactics for leaders. All right. Never hesitate to ask for what you want. Develop allies. Help people to like you. Use rational persuasion. Appeal to higher authority. So your personality is important in terms of your leadership. Right? People don't follow people they don't like. So the important in developing your own leadership abilities to be able to establish your network, to interact with people, to build that network, to get people to know you, and to accept opportunities to take the responsibility of being a leader. Even on little things. Leading a team gives you experience, gets you to see how people react to you. So the concept of leadership has been, there must be thousands of books written on leadership, because we're always interested in what makes an organization better or worse. Jack Welch, General Electric, was a gifted leader, but was also very difficult. If we look at Andy Grove, a different type of leader. So there's many different types of leadership skills and abilities. The modern leader needs to be able to not just be a dictator, but also to be able to emphasize an understanding of your personnel and human capital that you have to supervise. Now, we're coming into a presidential election. So under what type of category would you place Mr. Trump? What type of category would you place Mrs. Clinton? What type of leaders are they? And what type of leader has Mr. Obama been? Transactional, transformational? How has his leadership been, should I say, how has his leadership been reflected in society and the goals of the country? Okay? So just think about what you see as good leaders around the world. Who stands out as a good leader, who's a strong leader? Obviously, Mr. Putin has been a very effective, strong leader. And you look at different prime ministers, presidents,